Good morning. Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Pittsburgh. My name is Reverend Dr. Kate Walker, and it is Sunday, August 22nd of 2021. I welcome you here to this time and this place, and this time of deep struggles and time for the yearning to be connected to community. Thank you for choosing to be with us this morning. Thank you from wherever you are. I am so glad that you chose to be with us. I, of course, am not alone here in this beautiful sanctuary. I have a great team of people, including you just met Danny Rechtenwald. We are so glad to have you, Danny, as well as we will be joined later on vocals, Juliana Warner. And we have Kathy Fine here as our liturgist, and a wonderful tech team today of Brian Junker and Emily Sweeney. I hope you offer your gratitude to them as much as I do for helping make this all happen. If this is your very first time with us, a special note of gratitude for your time with us. Please get connected with us on our website, and we'd be glad to give you a sense of who we are and what we can offer, and perhaps how you might fit into our community. Today we are gathering in worship, in celebration and connection, and in service as we reflect about names and naming and the power that's inherent in names and naming things. What an extraordinary area to explore. So I invite you to please take a breath, settle in, enjoy your coffee or tea, and be with us in this time and space. As we light our chalice, may the light of this chalice, the symbol of our faith as Unitarian Universalists, spark in you something about curiosity, about your name, perhaps that you don't know, or an act of naming that you have done in your life that has brought you power and change in life. May this light guide you on your journey in a spiritual and religious world. Welcome. Welcome to you all.
Do you hear, oh my friend, in the place where you stand, through the sky, through the land? Do you hear, in the heights on the plain, in the vale on the main, in the sun, in the rain? Do you hear, through the roll, through the rush, through the throng, through the crush? Do you hear in the hush of your soul, hear the cry, fear won't still, hear the heart's call to will, hear a sigh, startling thrill in your soul, from the place where you stand to the outermost strand. Do you hear, oh my friend? Do you hear all the dreams, all the dares, all the sights, all the prayers? They are yours, mine and theirs. Do you hear,
So I have a story from you that is from the history, from religious history of Christianity and Judaism, and from the book of Genesis. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. At first it was dark, watery, indistinguishable, but the Spirit of God was stirring, and God separated light from darkness and decided this was good. And we had an evening and a morning, and the first day occurred. And then God decided to separate the waters to the above, so the waters will fall down, and the waters below, creating a divider sky. And God decided this was good. There was an evening and a morning. That was day 2. God decided to gather the waters, creating a place for land, and called that earth, and called the waters seas. And God created plants and fruits with seeds so they could multiply again and again, and decided, oh yeah, that was good. And there was an evening and a morning. That was day 3. And then God decided there needed to be lights in the sky to mark the seasons and the passing of the days and the years, and place the moon and the sun and all the beautiful stars, and decided, oh yeah, this one's really good. And there was a day and an evening and a morning. That was day 4. And God decided there needed to be swarms of living creatures in the seas, fish with scales, and all sorts of birds in the sky with beaks and feathers. God was excited, and this was good. There was an evening and a morning. That was day 5. And decided all kinds of living creatures, creeping and running and wild, and humans were all created. And then God gave humans the responsibility for the earth. Oh, yeah, God thought this was good. Yeah, definitely. And there was an evening and a morning. That was day 6. The heavens and the earth were created. Well, so God rested, and that was a holy day of rest. God thought, yeah, this is good, yeah. And then there was an 8th day that's not usually mentioned. In fact, it's not really in the scriptures. But on the 8th day, humans claimed responsibility for that earth and did begin to name all the creatures, including God. We'll let our offering be taken.
Just as we are supported and sustained by this religious community, we support and sustain this church through our financial contributions as well as through our participation. Donations by check may be mailed to the church office. Electronic donations may be made online through the church website or by texting GIVE to 412-435-1050 and following the instructions. We thank you for your support.
Thank you. Thank you. I invite us all to open our hearts to the joys and the sorrows that are within our community, so many of them silent within the sanctuary of our hearts. This morning, I share good news that Nancy Latimer's son, Andrew, and his wife, Gina, are expecting a baby in January. This will be Nancy's first grandchild. Andrew is Nancy's son that was deployed to the Middle East for a year soon after their wedding back in 2019. So this is indeed good news. Also, Barb Gangler is recovering slowly from her surgeries this week. She and her husband, Randy, are sincerely appreciating all the warm wishes and the thoughts that you have been sending. They feel connected and beloved. We are also very happy to announce that our communications coordinator, Cicely Moultrie, is pregnant and expecting a baby girl on October 11th. So we are delighted, and yes, we will be missing her while she's on parental leave in October. But we are so delighted and happy to have celebrating that with her. I invite you now to take a long, slow, deep breath as we hold these joys in our hearts. We know also that there are many sorrows and fears and anxieties in this world. So I invite us to enter a time, into a place within our body and space of prayer, of meditation, and some moments of silence in our very busy and noisy lives. May the spirit of love fill our hearts, even as we fear and experience anxiety, even as we feel anger and frustration. Let the spirit of love ease the muscles and bones in our bodies. May the spirit of life lift our hearts and give us energy to live full lives as much as we can, energy to live lives committed to eradicating injustice wherever it has wound its way into the fabric of life. Let the energy of life fill us with a commitment to love and to reach out with compassion, with the ear of the heart, listening our way into each other's lives, building connection and intimacy. May the Spirit of the Holy, the God of many names who has been with us throughout history in so many ways, may that sense of joy, of preciousness, of the holiness of our lives remind us of all that is important, deepening, enlarging, and bringing us a sense of love beyond expression. Blessed be, and amen.
Dear trans, non-binary, genderqueer, and gender-expansive friends and kin, and those of us whose gender is survival, you are not hard to love and respect. Your existence is a blessing. Your pronouns are not a burden or a trial. They are part of your name, just shorter. Some of our kin use only their names where pronouns would be, the names they are called. Remember that someone getting them wrong is not a poor reflection on you. It is not your fault. Your body, really and truly, belongs to you, no one else. The stories of your body, the names of your body's parts, your body's privacy, the sum of your body's glory, it is not okay for anyone to press their story of you back to the beginning of our liberation. We will find the people ready to be on the Freedom for the People way. We will go on. No one can rename you other. It can't stick as you offer the gift of being and saying who you are. Mostly, though, your stories belong to you. Your joy and complexity are beautiful, however you may choose to tell it or not tell it. Some folks, cis, may take their liberty for an unholy license. You are beloved. Please keep to our shared tasks of healing and getting free.
People are asking me, what should we call you? Reverend Kate, just Kate. Reverend Walker, Dr. Walker, Reverend Dr. Walker. It's a good question. There's a lot of power in a name. It's closely tied, intimately tied to our identity, our values. It's also tied to our history, our stories and legacy. I am Kate Ruth Walker, both my private and public identity. This is fundamental to me. And I'm Kate, not Catherine, not Kathleen, legally Kate. I'm named for my great aunt Kate, who's named for her great aunt Kate. And yes, I'm starting to put some pressure on my very young nieces and nephews. Well, I think I can. And of course, Ruth. Ruth was, excuse me, back up. Kate was my paternal side. On my maternal side is Ruth, my mother's middle name, and my grandmother's first name. So I bring two families together, and that's part of my history, my legacy. And my parents carefully chose my name. They were proud of it. They were excited. And it is exciting to name a new child that's born. I've had the opportunity, to name puppies. That's one of the things I love, puppies. I had a puppy that I named Cooper as a nickname because his full name I decided was Walden Heidekoper. Cooper worked better. Walden Heidekoper. Walden was for the name of the man who started his breed. He was a Chinook. And Heidekoper, Harm Jan Heidekoper, he started the Meadville Unitarian Universalist Church, inspired by this church in Pittsburgh. And then he went on to start the seminary in Meadville. So since I served that church, I wanted to hang on to that legacy, and Cooper got to have it. I have another dog named Dobie. He was named for a part of Colorado that I loved. Currently, my husband and I have two Springer Spaniels named Amy and Rory. Some of you are wondering, is that for the companions in Doctor Who? It is. Yeah, it is, from Doctor Who. So, naming. Children learn naming from an early age as their identity forms. They can name a new toy or a doll or a new dragon, in my case, and they feel the power of granting a new identity that's still emerging, a story that hasn't unfolded. It's a godlike action to name. The book of Genesis is the opening of a powerful story that begins by naming God. Who named God? All creation stories start with the naming. Humans, in turn, named God in a symbiotic relationship here as co-creators. Naming is very much about power, and it's important to recognize that power and how it provides energy. It can empower, it can disempower, it can heal, or it can erupt. The social media world, and particularly in the sports social media world, blew up this weekend because the Chicago Blackhawks misspelled their brand new goalie's name on his new jersey. And last month in the Summer Olympics, an announcer mispronounced a New Jersey track star, a thing Mo. Now that's not what he said. Her name is a thing Mo. He said something that she didn't recognize. You think getting it right in a major public announcement is a fair expectation. And in this ever-increasing international world, when we Americans are more exposed to names that seem unusual and they're not as simple as mine, Americans need to take time to listen and ask, how do I pronounce your name? Giving honor and respect to them. Because names carry some pride, some sense of our connection. And when we get it wrong, it may be disrespectful that we don't take somebody seriously. But for some, that history, that legacy they've been bestowed upon them can be overwhelming. It can be an identity that's constricted or restricted because it doesn't fit. Now, many children at some point as their identity emerges ponder changing their name. For about a week when I was 6 years old, I wanted to be Susan. But for the inclination to change a name often passes, but not for all. For some, the power to choose a new name that better reflects on their identity and presents who they are today and who they yearn to be in the future. I read a story recently about a person who changed their name from Brandy to Alex. Brandy didn't fit who this new person was. It was too rich, too pretentious. Alex was gender neutral, and after extensive research, the name felt better. So Brandy went to a local law library, didn't want to hire a lawyer, filled out all the necessary paperwork, did all the legal steps, and then changed their name, and Alex emerged. Alex said it was quite easy. In fact, quote, "It was so fun to introduce myself with my new name. I felt like I had taken charge of my own life and truly became independent. Also, it was liberating. People allow themselves to be defined by things beyond their control. Changing my name allowed me to define myself," end quote. That's an incredible act of agency, a shifting of power. And for transgendered, non-binary, gender-expanding people, the name is crucial in exploring, inviting a powerful truth, and asking others to bear witness. And as witnesses, we can affirm, celebrate, acknowledge the stress of changing a name, and the shifting of power is a shifting of truth. And as witnesses, this is important to pause, try to affirm, acknowledge something as simple as a pronoun. For some people, the pronoun is not important, but for some it is. Also, as the form of their name, as we heard from the beautiful reading from Teresa Soto, getting the right pronoun is actually a form of interrupting oppression, of naming oppression. Small and large acts of harm are done to our siblings every day by people not paying attention. Getting the names and the corresponding pronouns is an act of interrupting oppression by getting it right with love and affirmation. Those powerful words from Reverend Teresa Soto, she's a Unitarian Universalist minister serving our Oakland, California church. talks about the choosing of pronouns and the choosing of affirming our bodies, our beautiful bodies and all the body parts, is acclaiming and a celebrating. And it's calling out oppression from others who are imposing their own expectations. In a world where there's active denial and oppression of people who don't fit into the normal straight-lined white boxes filled with pre- and ill-conceived ideas about what is right and wrong, what an extraordinary opportunity to name something happening. And for some, there is no pronoun. They just want their name. That's a statement of power. Confucius is attributed to having said, if names are not correct, language will not be in accordance with the truth of things. If names are not correct, language will not be in accordance with the truth of things. Women know this. Changing our last name when we get married historically was an act with a property transfer. We were transferred as property. That's still happening in some countries, but these days, and particularly in this country, we see hyphenated names when women are married, or whole new names created between two members or multiple members in some ceremonies of marriage, which is a signal, though, that change of a name in a marriage is a signal that something has happened. A change has happened. And naming that event, or naming any event, is also a crucial acknowledgement of the grant of power that something has happened. Hannah Arendt noted that action without a name, who attached to it, is meaningless. Action without a name, a who attached to it, is meaningless. We, as Unitarian Universalists, have a naming ceremony, a child dedication. For Jewish, the ceremony for newborn girls is the Simchat Bat. For Muslims, 7 days after birth, they have the Kika for their newborns. For these rituals, we're embracing the naming of the name, giving it context, part of the new story and meaning. It's a powerful moment for the family and the community. Provides continuity, relevance, and it strengthens the relationships, the bonds, and giving us social cohesion. In a completely different direction, naming, not just from a child dedication, but naming can be incredibly empowering for those who've been a victim of a crime. A victim, if they can name the predator, or they can name the act itself, or description of the act and its impact, can help a victim reclaim something lost, reclaim a loss of self, reclaim agency. Because naming is about power, naming can also disempower. It's a shifting of energy and power. When you name something out loud, for example, the famous story about the emperor has no clothes is an act of disempowering a tyrant who is in fact not a tyrant. We've only pretended for too long. That loss of power through an energy shift happens because predators, tyrants, rely on power over relationship. They're looking for an opportunity to disempower the others. And by naming it, we can stop it. They act. By naming the predator, we can disempower it, shift the dynamic by pulling back the veil of control and showing the true nature of abuse. This, of course, brings up all sorts of emotions. Similarly, when we remove the power of debilitating energy by naming negative emotions, We name them for what they are, negative energy blocking our capacity to fully live. So, give you an example. We think about things that are going on in this world right now. Too often we're feeling angry right now. If we're feeling angry, name it. Call it out. If we're feeling frightened, name it. If we're feeling love, oh my gosh, name it loud and clear. By naming a negative emotion, we release the energy, disempower its impact where it's blocking our energy. When we name love, we open ourselves up. And right now, in a world with a pandemic driving us further apart, not closer, with climate crisis terrifying us, devastating events in Haiti, in Afghanistan, and so many parts of the world, every time we listen to the news, all of this brings up so many emotions, and they're very real, very real. So it's important to name those emotions, the fear, the anger, the need, the yearning for love and connection. That in itself is an act of healing, of shifting the energy. In my ministry, I name things a lot. It's part of my impact, hopefully, as a minister, as a Unitarian Universalist, is naming events and things and what's going on with myself and what I'm sensing in this world. And when we dig deeper, this is tied to my firm belief in our first principle, that we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person. It's about respect, how we treat each other, how we look at the events that glue our culture and our society and our communities together. This is about how we live our first principle. It's one of the guiding lights of my ministry. The first principle is fundamentally about power, recognizing, affirming, celebrating our own power, our agency, our identities, our values, our history, and that of all others as well in our complexities. So, what do you want to call me? Call me Kate, call me Reverend Kate, call me Reverend Walker. I'm actually not particularly attached. I claim all those names and the honorific titles that I've earned. What I do care about is that when you call me, and please do, is you do so with kindness, that you do so honoring my inherent worth and dignity. And I will do the same for you as we get to know each other and as I learn your names and your history and your legacy. May we do so together. Blessed be, and amen.
If you see something that's wrong, raise your hand and say that's wrong. Point it out and name that thing by its name. Don't stand by and stare. If it's wrong, it's your affair. Don't be quiet, make a riot, be a pain. Be a pain, shout about it and complain. Ignore the crowd and go against the grain. Don't be polite, raise your voice and do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. When Rosa Parks sat on that bus, she chose to make a fuss. She chose to break the rules and take the blame. Her choice to sit and fight helped to bring on civil rights, because one strong woman chose to be a pain. Be a pain, shout about it and complain. If they say you have to move, say I'll remain. Don't be polite, raise your voice and do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. Harvey Milk, chose to run for the council board and won, even though folks said you can't because you're gay. One brave LGBTQ elected leader ran and knew you can change things if you choose to be a pain. Be a pain, shout about it and complain. Tell 'em I won't let you make me feel ashamed. Don't be polite, raise your voice and do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. Tennis star named Billie Jean told the world she had a dream that men and women would be paid the same. She refused to hit that ball till there was equal pay for all. She was a king because she was a royal pain. Be a pain, shout about it and complain. If they refuse to pay, refuse to play the game. Don't be polite, raise your voice and do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. Kids from Parkland led the fight for something they all knew was right. They said it's time for us to finally make a change. If adults can't compromise, we must go march for our lives. They spoke out and led the charge. They all were pains. Be a pain, shout about it and complain. When you're faced with laws you know are just insane. Don't be polite, raise your voice and do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. Oh, be a pain, shout about it and complain. Ignore the crowd and go against the grain. Don't be polite, raise your voice and do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain.
As we extinguish our chalice, and the words that I invite you to say from your homes, in unison, along with many, many other Unitarian Universalist churches across the country this morning. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go forth, my good people, into this world. Find something to name. Look at opportunities to engage in naming beauty and love and acts of oppression. Maybe it is time for more of us to be less polite and name when things are wrong. We have the power, we have the will, we have the vision. Come again next week. Be well.
Want me to go? All right, here we go. Take two. Here we go.